afternoon, and welcome to the Inside Out Collective. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Cutts, your resident psychologist and success coach. I am the host for today. Inside Out comes to you live every Tuesday between 2 and 3 o'clock, and I am a part of a collective along with hosts Lady Dane Figueroa Aditi and Angela Peebles. And I'm holding it down today for the show. We come to you live every Tuesday, and we look at everything from pop culture to politics through a more inclusive LGBT lens. I'm holding it down for the B's today. And once again, my name is Dr. Nicole Cutts, and I am living my vision of success. So what does that mean? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about following your bliss and living your vision of success. I also want to let people know that we will be taking calls today. So if you want to call in with a question about success, how to succeed, how to live your vision, how to follow your bliss, or even to share your own stories of success. Maybe you are living your vision of success and you want to share that with us. If that's the case, feel free to call in. The number to call is 202-6, I'd like to give you my personal phone, 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. So the lines are open and you can give us a call. So we are going to be talking today about living your vision of success and following your bliss. My whole talk could basically be summed up by a quote from Joseph Campbell, the philosopher and author, who said, follow your bliss. If you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while waiting for you, and the life you ought to be living is the one you are living. When you can see that you are following your bliss, you begin to meet people who are in the field of your bliss, and they open doors to you. And he goes on to say, I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know there were going to be. If you follow your bliss, doors will open for you that wouldn't have opened for anyone else. So what Joseph Campbell is basically saying is that in order to be living your vision and bringing what is uniquely you to the world, the best way to figure that out is by following what makes you happy, doing what makes you happy. You know, as a psychologist and a success coach, I work with a lot of people who are doing work that they're not really passionate about. And they might even be successful, you know, quote unquote successful in terms of making money or getting to a certain position of power or status, but they don't feel fulfilled. So a part of the definition of living one's vision of success, and for me, living my vision of success, what it has to do with is being happy and feeling fulfilled, okay? And I believe that you can do that when you do something that you're actually passionate about and you follow your bliss. And that can take you to the next level, because anything that we do or that's worth doing has its ups and downs, has its bumps, has its challenges. But when you're doing something that you are passionate about, that passion gives you the energy and the fuel to get through those challenges, okay? So that's what we're working with. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, how I came to be living my vision of success. It's, you know, like a lot of stories, it's a bit of a circuitous route. You know, and the other concept that I want to put out there before I go any further is an idea that we are all on a hero and heroine quest, you know. So I see life as a quest, you know, a series of challenges and triumphs. If you think about all the stories throughout mythology and history and religion, and that's what Joseph Campbell's work is about. He wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and what he basically was showing in that book is that there's this story of the hero, this what he calls a monomyth that's told throughout religion and history and stories and fairy tales. And I like to see my life and help my clients to see their lives as this coaching. Excuse me, not as coaching, as being on a hero's quest. So I see that we have a call. I'm going to take a quick break to take that call. And caller, go ahead. Do you have a question? Hello?
Oh, morning or afternoon. I'm David.
Hi, David. How are you?
Hey, good. I heard you talking about following Bliss, and I was going to expound on that from the kind of the historian's viewpoint of it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at it, there's an expression, about the time of 1776, let's say, philosophers had been looking at what they called the ancient three estates, and it was the king, the military, and the church, and they were always setting up empires and forcing the little people to dance to the tune of those various empires. So it was the military, the king, or the church. And the king also symbolized money. So all three of them were using basically fakery. They were conning the people into thinking that they were in charge. The church, of course, would claim that God put them in charge. The military would use uniforms and sheer thuggery to stay in charge. And the economy would be dominated by fake numbers. So when you look at following your bliss, you have to look at whether or not your bliss is being caught up in the whirlpool of one or more of the ancient three estates. And it's interesting as a kid, when I first learned about this, I made a point to try to boycott money, clothes, and superstition, and find ways of living without money, clothes, or superstition. And in that way, there's an incentive, because if you can really be yourself, then you can actually find love. But if you're living a life of phoniness, phoniness of money, phoniness of belligerence, phoniness of spirituality, then you're not going to be able to actually be comfortable with yourself, much less comfortable with your soulmate. So following...
Thank you, David. So how do you define your bliss?
Well, being able to do something every day to augment this coming about.
Okay. Well, thank you for your call and for your perspective.
Sure, my pleasure. Good week. And greetings from San Francisco.
Thank you. And greetings from Maryland and D.C. to San Francisco.
Yeah, we got a little foggy day out here.
Okay. Thank you very much for the call.
Thanks again.
All right, David. Okay. Okay, so we are back. Thank you, David, for that call from San Francisco. And he was talking about a historical perspective of following your bliss. Just to clarify on this end, when I say following your bliss, it's what makes you feel most happy, alive, and fulfilled. And what I was getting ready to do was just share a little bit of my story on how I got to be living my vision of success through following my bliss, which I had to learn to do over time. Basically, because I learn more through people's stories than I do through lectures. So, I just want to say that I want to share my story with folks, in terms of how I got to where I am. I am a clinical psychologist by training and degree, licensing, and all of that. And I was partway through my graduate studies when now I realize, looking back temporarily, fell out of love with clinical psychology. And that's when this whole question first came up for me about how to find what my new passion was. And so I went on a course of discovery, prayer, and meditation, and just paying attention, reading different books, like Barbara Shear's I Could Do Anything If Only I Knew What It Was, Nelson Bowles, what's the color of what color is your parachute, and just sort of studying, and I started to follow my bliss, and oddly enough, it took me back to my art. I started painting again and sharing my art, and then it took me to realizing that I wanted to work with teams and organizations, and I started a consulting company called Cuts Consulting, through which I do coaching for executives and organizational consulting, and then now to Vision Quest Retreats, through which I help other people to discover what it is that they're most passionate about and to do it. And through that, I do the success coaching, and that's really what brings me the most joy and happiness, is to help people to be uniquely matched with their gifts. But a lot of times in that course, I had to follow my instincts and do what I knew was fulfilling, not necessarily what seemed to make sense, to people from the outside, and that's a part of following your bliss, is being led from the inside, like our caller, David, who talked about money and power and all of those things. While a lot of times we think those are the kind of things that make us happy, really in the end, most people feel empty when they encounter those things. So that's the route that I went through, and I'm also going to share a little bit later on with you some tips for how to achieve your visions of success, how to, set your goals and all that. But in the meantime, I want to put it out there again that you can call in if you have any questions or comments. You might have questions about how to get past certain blocks. I know some people struggle with having a lot of different passions, how to hone those down. Feel free to call in. The number again is 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. So feel free to give a call, and our engineer, David, will put you on hold. So I'm going to make a little switch here. I'm actually coming to you from my cell phone because the traffic on Claire Barton Parkway was such that I could not actually get through to D.C. So I'm going to make a little switch here to the car phone so that I can get communications from our engineer, and I will be right with you. Okay, so we are back. So some of the assumptions that I'm working with today in terms of this idea of how to follow your bliss to lead to living your vision of success is based on a few of these assumptions. One, following your bliss is fun. One of my beliefs is that you should be doing work that you enjoy, that it should be fun. It should be something that gives you energy or life. One of the questions that I ask people who I'm working with when I'm coaching them, when they aren't sure what it is that they want to do that brings them the most life, is I use something from Appreciative Inquiry, where I ask people, think of a time when you felt most happy, vibrant, and alive. And if you're tuned in today, you're listening, you can go ahead and ask yourself that question if you're sort of struggling with what is it that I want to be doing, what is my bliss, is to think about a time in your life when you felt most happy, vibrant, and alive. That will give you a clue. Okay, now the other assumption I'm working with is that following your bliss and having a purpose gives you energy. And I mentioned that at the outset, that, doing anything, working towards success can be very, very challenging. But when you're doing something that you enjoy, that gives you energy. That passion gives you energy. The other assumption, of course, is that energy is needed to move you along, to help you to achieve your goals, and to ultimately be living a vision of success. The other assumption is that you can do the work that you love and find joy in your work. Okay? So sometimes people feel like, work is work, and I don't expect to get fulfillment from it. I'm coming from the premise that you can. And even if you're not about to change jobs or get into a different career field, you can actually find some joy and purpose in the work that you do. Wherever you are currently right now, sometimes we get out of touch with why we're doing the job that we're doing. So I like to help people to reconnect with that. And when I'm working in organizations, I ask people that question, what is it about the work that you're doing that you love, that you care about? What is the mission of the organization that you work for? And what is your mission within that? And sometimes that can help you to reconnect and to find some energy in your work. The other assumption that I'm working with is the definition of success. Okay, and I mentioned this before. When I say living your vision of success, now you can have your own definition, but the definition that I'm talking about is not, again, just a dollar amount or a certain position or a title. It means being happy, feeling fulfilled. So success in this case is being happy and contributing to the world in a positive way. Okay? So when you're uniquely matched with your work, what it is that you're passionate about, it should also be something that contributes to the world in a positive way. Okay? So, and that can be any range of things. It could be music, it could be art, it could be teaching, it could be janitorial services, whatever it is, as long as you're contributing to the world in a positive way. So I'm going to take another break to take some callers. I hear that we have a call on the line. Caller, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do. Yes, this is Mark
Hi.
from Silver Spring.
Did you say Mark?
Yeah.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hi, is this Dr. Cutts?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Dr. Cutts. I have a question for you. I'm working a job I love, but it's very stressful. I have a family and 3 kids, and that's stressful. And the only way that I can sort of find time to relax is when I go out of town. So I find myself going out of town quite a bit, but that's causing some stress with my wife.
I would imagine.
Yes. What sort of things can I do to find more peace and relaxation and joy here at home so that I don't find myself always traveling?
Well, what do you do right now to take care of yourself, Mark? Do you do any kind of exercise? Do you meditate? Do you do yoga?
No, I don't. I was exercising for a while, and I felt much better when I did.
Well, that's one of the things I would say is that if you're experiencing a lot of, you do want to try something physically to address that. You know, one of the techniques I use in my coaching practice, it's called somatic coaching. And, you know, things like even just certain breathing exercises to help you to relax, you know, can be a big help. Again, I mentioned yoga. You know, there's plenty of practices that you can do at home that can be helpful. If you even set a timer for 5 minutes to just sit and meditate a day, you'll find that you'll have more clarity and you reduce your stress. Now, do you all ever do anything as a family that involves exercising, like maybe some group exercise so that you could all reduce stress together, like maybe jog together or play tennis or anything like that?
No, pretty much walking the dog would be about the only sort of exercise that we would ever do as a family, and we usually split up and do that. So
Okay. Well, you know, sometimes that's helpful, sometimes that's more stress when you have everybody together trying to coordinate everybody. So I would suggest doing some kind of, even if it's 30 minutes a day of exercise. And in addition to that, or barring that, 5 minutes of, you know, just seated meditation or some sort of yoga practice, and doing it every day. I think you'll find within a couple weeks that your stress level will be reduced.
That is very helpful. Thank you so much, Dr. Cutts.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, did we have another call on the line?
Yes, hi. This is Denai calling from Silver Spring, Maryland.
Yes, Denai, go ahead.
Hi. It's really an interesting show. I guess
Thank you.
I have this question. Listening to these suggestions, it sounds so great to say, follow your bliss, find out what you feel passionate about, and do that, and life will be so fulfilling. But do you have suggestions for people who are, you know, you're caught up in the daily grind, but that's also your reality. You have a job to go to. You need that job in order to meet your financial obligations or take care of your family. And if you are in an office job and you spend 40-plus hours a week there, but you'd really like to be running a bed and breakfast somewhere or writing a book or something, do you have some concrete suggestions for how people can structure a path between their present reality and what they envision they'd like to be doing? Because I think that concrete jump is difficult it's easy to think about it, but how would you actually approach doing it?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question, and that's something that I work with folks when I do success coaching, because it is a reality that we have bills and responsibilities and children, and sometimes living your vision in its fullest expression might have to be delayed. But as long as that's a conscious choice that, okay, right now, let's say I can't go climb the Himalayas, but I can be saving money and I can be practicing, and getting things together until that time. Now, when it comes to something like starting a new business, what I suggest is creating a plan, for what your vision is, what it is that you want to do, and then it takes a lot of patience, but being okay to just work on it incrementally. Like if you look at your schedule, if you try, manage your time as best as you can, and you even just say, I'm going to take a half hour today to do some research on, let's say, you mentioned bed and breakfast, owning a bed and breakfast. And the other thing is it's important to reward yourself, to look at, okay, what did I do today toward my vision? Even if it was, I did research on bed and breakfast today, then you take that off your list and you reward yourself, just even with a, internal pat on the back. The next day, you might do some more research. The next day, you might see that there's a class or a course that is coming up in a couple weekends about, owning a bed and breakfast, and take some time to do that. But, to do these things incrementally, once you've created your whole plan, you have a plan with a timeline, and then you can work toward it. And then you also have to think realistically, okay, if I need to wait until, let's say, the kids are in high school or college, what would I like to have in place by that time? And I find that makes your other activities, for lack of a better word, a lot more tolerable. If as you're doing a job that maybe you don't love doing, you look at it as, well, this job is helping me to earn money, to save money toward that vision. So it really is about creating a plan and then needing to be patient as you just do a little bit each day or each week and check your progress along the way. Is that helpful?
It is helpful. Thank you very much. It's a great show.
Okay, thanks a lot for calling.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, so we are in Inside Out. This is Dr. Nicole Cutts, your resident success coach and clinical psychologist. We're taking calls at 202-588-0893. Do we have another call on the line?
Hello, Dr. Cutts. This is Gloria.
Hi, Gloria. How are you? Thanks for calling.
I'm doing marvelous, and I love your show. And I have attended some of your Vision Quest seminars, and they have been awesome.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I currently, my passion is cooking. Mm-hmm. And even though I am retired now, I do find pleasure in cooking for nonprofits on big scales and smaller scales, which, people actually pay me to cook, and I love it because it's so rewarding for me. And for me, it does relieve a lot of stress. I mean, if I'm having a really bad day, I get into something that I'm passionate about, and lo and behold, the stress leaves me.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to address was that volunteering. Volunteering is just another way for me to give back, because you were talking about giving back.
Yeah.
That's a way of giving back, and it's rewarding to me.
Right.
And, volunteering at the hospital for sick children to sit down and just watch some babies who don't get held enough. And, but there's so many of these opportunities that are available that bring me joy. Just bring me absolute joy. And I'm going to close with this, which is really important for me, is that I read a long time ago that a goal without a plan is just a wish.
That is very true, and it's a great quote. And I really appreciate you calling, and I appreciate what you said about giving back, because and we might get into it in the second half of the show, but in the 7 steps that I was going to share with folks around achieving your goals, the 7th step is to not only enjoy your success, but is to give back. That's actually a really important part of the process. So I'm really glad to hear you say that that is a big part for you of living your vision of success.
So thank you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. And good luck with everything.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. So this is Dr. Nicole Cutts on Inside Out. We're taking calls. I believe got a message from our engineer. Do we have another caller on the line?
Yes.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm listening to your show, and you got some good information.
Thank you. Thanks for calling in.
But my Blitz, I become a visionary, and when I look at people in general, they never get satisfied.
Yes.
And until you could get satisfied,
Mm-hmm.
you're always going to have what you call stress.
Yes.
And for me, some of the things that people tie themselves to is like salt in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything you cook, you put salt into it.
Yeah.
And when I say salt, it's because you use it so regularly.
Yeah.
So they use the word stress so regularly that even when they're not stressed, they say they're stressed.
So it's like an automatic thing you feel. Some people just say stress.
That part in the Bible says they're running when no one is chasing them.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot find peace with just you alone in the natural realms. Yes, you could find peace by yourself with Christ.
Yeah.
When you have a family, you got to find peace with you and your family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to find peace right there, it consists of a lot of things. First of all, material things could cause more conflict in your life than anything else. By each person wants something different. Each person wants to watch something different on the TV. So until we can downside on those things.
Yeah, people think they need a lot more than they do, but not having things can also cause stress. You know, they say that money can bring you some peace of mind to a certain extent, you know, to have your basic needs met. But beyond that, you're right. It can lead to more stress in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm not ruling out money, so to speak. I'm ruling out maybe for people who never born into luxury.
Right.
And make quantity of more go make their life better. It's not going to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. You got people who do great on the job, and when they get home, you could say they turn the devil on the...
Right. Well, thank you for your call. We have to take a quick break.
Right.
So, but I appreciate you calling. I think we have time for one more before we take the break. But thanks for tuning in and thanks for calling in.
All right.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. You're on the line.
Oh, I had a question. I just tuned in about like 15 minutes ago, but I work in a back to work program with job coaches, and a lot of our clients, you know, are suffering from depression and other issues, and some of them have such little hope that they will get a job or that, you know, their life will ever be fulfilled, and they obviously don't want to hear any of the, you know, meditation and, you know, think about your best time in your life and what was that like. You know, they are so disengaged already. How do we as job coaches and doctor work supporters get clients like that motivated and feeling like there is, you know, another reality, like you were saying?
Yeah. Well, it is a challenge. You know, that's one of the blocks to living your vision of success, can be depression or just a depressed mood. You know, and without getting into, you know, obviously for some people they benefit from medical intervention, you know, for the depression. I'm sure you all deal with that. But the questions like around appreciative inquiry and getting people to think about when they were feeling most happy and vibrant and alive can be helpful for people that are depressed. You know, to get them to imagine, even just get their brains moving in that direction of a more positive scenario can be helpful. There's so many different ways to help somebody who's dealing with depression or a depressed mood. Getting out and exercising, moving, all of those things, even though it's difficult, and rewarding yourself for the little bits of things that you do. One of the things that I suggest to my clients is to write down 3 things that they do that are positive for themselves in a day. So if somebody is really depressed and they make themselves get up and brush their teeth and make breakfast, those would be 2 things to put on their list. If they went and saw their psychologist or their psychiatrist that day, that would go on the list. And then also to write 5 things for which you're grateful because, and you might want to read the work of Dr. Rick Hansen, who talks about just one thing, but it's kind of retraining your brain to get the circuitry to move in a more positive direction, to focus on something positive. So I also ask people to write down 5 things for which they're grateful every day to get the serotonin moving and the dopamine, to get their brains moving in a more positive direction, if even incrementally. It's almost like exercise on a daily basis. I find can be very helpful for people.
Okay, it's like starting at the very basic,
Yeah, if somebody's really depressed, you got to start with those little tiny steps, but also making sure that they are encouraged and rewarded and learn how to reward themselves. So a part of, as we know, of depression is that negative thinking. Is that, being down on yourself. So it's so easy, and this is for everybody, it's so easy to say, I didn't do these 5 things today versus I did this one thing. So getting people to focus and expand on the positive, which Appreciative Inquiry does, which the work of Dr. Rick Hansen helps you to do, I think can be very helpful, along with other interventions. If somebody needs medicine, then they need medicine, and they need to move their bodies and all that stuff as well.
Right, yeah, we have all those supports in the program for them too, but it's just, it is challenging though to get that first positive direction footstep going.
Yeah, and for some people it's a fight, for forever, when people are dealing with depression. It's something that they have to deal with for a long time often. But good luck with that and with your studies, and I hope that was helpful. We have to take a quick break. So we're going to pause for station identification and for a quick announcement. You're listening to Inside Out on WPFW 89.3 FM.
Non-Such Records, presenting the self-titled album by French electronic music innovator Saint Germain, featuring new music inspired by jazz, blues, and African traditions. Saint Germain is available now on iTunes.
Welcome back to Inside Out on WPFW FM 89.3. I am your host for today, Dr. Nicole Cutts, clinical psychologist and success coach. And today we are talking about following your bliss and living your vision of success. We're also taking calls. So if you want to call in, if you have a question or a comment about success, following your bliss, or anything of a related topic, please pick up the phone and call 202-588-0893. That's 202-588-0893. So before the break, we were talking to a few people. We were talking to a young lady who brought up people who are depressed, or who have a mood disorder. And that can be very challenging, something that is I consider a block to living your vision and following your bliss. So, while I'm not offering medical advice on this show, if you feel that you're dealing with depression, then that's something that needs to be addressed. Sometimes medicine is required. You can have a consultation with a psychiatrist, and explore if that is something that's holding you, because sometimes people blame themselves. They feel like, I'm just not trying hard enough. It's me, it's negative thinking. But you might, in fact, sometimes be dealing with depression. So, do address that if at all possible. And I'm getting a message from my engineer. I want you to hold on 1 second while I check to see what it is he's saying. David, are you there? Am I back in? It's hard to tell. Okay, I'm going to keep going so we don't have dead air. David, if you can text me a message as to what you were trying to say, that would be helpful. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and, now that we're in the second half of the show, talk about the 7 steps to achieving your goals or your vision of success. Okay? So, you know, one of our callers before who called in, Gloria, she said that, you know, she had heard a quote one time that a goal without a plan is basically a wish. And that's true. There are several steps that one needs to take to achieve their goals or their visions of success. So I'm going to give you the steps, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about them. And again, if you want to call in with any questions or comments around success, following your bliss, living your visions of success, you can pick up the phone and dial 202-588-0893. David, engineer, if you're listening, please resend your text to let me know what it is you were trying to communicate. Other than that, I'm going to keep going. So, step 1 is to find and clarify your vision of success. And don't worry, I'll give you a little bit of background on each of these. Step 2 is to find your goal clearly. Step 3 is to see and or visualize yourself achieving your goals. Step 4, make a clear plan with a timeline. That's very important. Step 5, to chart your progress. Step 6 is to enjoy your success and celebrate. And step 7 is to give back, which I also mentioned before the break. So, how do you achieve the first step? Step 1, which is finding and clarifying your vision of success. Well, for some people, they already know what that is. Some people, you know, as soon as they're conscious, know, I want to be this, or I want to be that, or, you know, I want to own this business. Some people, it takes them a little bit longer. Some people might already know what it is that they want to do. But the idea of finding and clarifying your vision of success is one of the things that you can do, if you already know it, is to write down an ideal vision. So it's to write down everything that you want to manifest on a piece of paper, you know, and only put it in the positive. And this comes from creative visualization, where you write it in the present tense and you only write positive things that you want to have. So you do a little sketch of your ideal vision, okay? Now, don't worry about if you don't see every piece of the puzzle or you don't see how everything is going to fit, because you're not forcing this. You can only put down as much as you see, and it's a process. It's an organic process where things will start to fill in as they come. You don't want to force any of this, okay? So that's one thing you can do. You can also do research, you know, reading books about people living their vision. Another good book is Poe Bronson's book. I can't remember the title right now, but it's having to do with, it's like Barbara Scher's book about I could do anything if only I knew what it was. But if you look up Poe Bronson, you'll find it, and it's P.O. is his first name. Okay. Barbara Scher's book is another good one. Nelson Bowles, What Color is Your Parachute? All good books to help you. I also suggest to people that they just pay attention, right? So pay attention to what gets you excited. You know, when you're watching TV or you're doing something and you hear about people doing a certain job or career, pay attention to what draws you, to what gets you excited. That can be a clue. If you just know that you're not where you want to be and you want to be somewhere else, that can be a clue. Now, step 2, defining your goal clearly, okay? So after you write this ideal scenario, then you want to pull out of it your goal, right? So to define the goals clearly, let's say I want to, you know, expand my company, Vision Quest Retreats. Okay, that's great, but what does that actually look like? Okay, so the goals might be increase the number of success coaching clients by whatever percent, do this many speaking engagements. All of those things are the concrete goals that equal expanding the business, okay? So you define it clearly, write that down as well. And then the next thing is, again, from creative visualization, is to see yourself achieving that goal, okay? So that could just mean sitting down, visualizing it. Could be creating a vision board. A lot of people are familiar with that. If you're not familiar with a vision board, it's the idea of making a pictorial representation of what your ideal scenario is, and focusing on it, giving it positive energy. And there's another technique from Shakti Gawain. It's called the pink bubble technique, where you envision your goal and you surround it with a pink light, the understanding that that's the color of the heart and the heart's desires. And then you float that vision out into the universe and you let it go, okay? So why would you let it go? The reason why you let it go is because the whole idea of living your vision and achieving these goals is that it's not just about you and for you. You have to be in concert. You have to be in harmony with the rest of the universe and with the world. So the idea of letting your vision go is to say, yes, this is something that I desire, but I'm not holding on to it so tightly that it must be that. If you believe that there's a higher intelligence that will help you to manifest that, if it should be. Sometimes the thing that we want the most is not the thing that we're, quote unquote, supposed to be doing, okay? So that's the idea of letting it go. But that third step is to see yourself achieving the goal. You have to believe yourself that you can achieve it. There's nobody else who's going to tell you that you can make something happen or you can achieve something if you don't believe it on your own. The fourth step, very important as well. I believe in creative visualization and all of those types of techniques. And at the same time, I'm very practical. You have to make a clear plan with a timeline. That's the fourth step. And I was talking to our caller, Denai in Silver Spring, who said, what if you're in one position and you want to get to another and you can't just make an immediate leap? Well, most people can't just make an immediate leap. It takes time. So part of that is to create a plan with a timeline. And Napoleon Hill said a goal is a dream with a deadline. Okay, that's similar to the quote that we talked about earlier. So consider breaking your plan down into 5 years, and then 1 year, then 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, and weekly achievements. Okay, you're going to fail at achieving your goal if you're unrealistic. Okay, so you want to make it a realistic time frame. Look at what you can do, especially if you're already in one job or career, or let's say you have young children at home and your time is limited. There's only so much you're going to be able to do during a given week. So put your goal out there and then work backward, breaking it down. Okay. So, and make sure that you check in on your progress. There's no point in making ornate goal chart and then putting it in a drawer somewhere. So check in at least on a monthly basis to see how you're doing. And don't be afraid to readjust your plan, okay? So that's the other part. Along with being patient, it's also not being too hard on yourself. Is if you don't achieve a goal for a particular reason, go ahead and just put it out. Push it further out. And also, it'll encourage you to do more if you give yourself credit. So always make sure that you reward yourself, even if it's just with some free time, if it's reading a book, if it's going for a walk, whatever it is, reward yourself for achieving these goals. Step 5, which goes along with this timeline, is to chart your progress, okay? So, you've got this goal plan, you've got this timesheet, you sit down on a monthly basis, weekly basis maybe, and you say, how am I doing, right? Let me chart the progress. If let's say in a month, I've only been able to accomplish these things, maybe that's realistically what you can do. So to go ahead and adjust that. It can also be helpful as you start to chart your progress, and even at the beginning where you're creating your plan, to enlist the help of a goal buddy. Now, of course, having a coach to work with is always helpful, but you can also just work with a friend. You probably have friends who are trying to achieve their own visions and goals. So you can have goal buddies. You can say, we're going to check in with each other on a weekly basis, or maybe even every morning, whatever works for both of you. But to check in so that you can encourage, and also so that you have that accountability piece. That's one of the things that you get with working with a coach that you can also get with working with friends, is to be accountable to someone aside from just yourself. It helps. Step 6, once you are achieving your goals, and you don't have to wait until you've achieved the ultimate vision, but on your way, you want to enjoy your success. One of our callers earlier, he spoke about, people never being satisfied. Chasing goals and looking for that to fulfill you it's an endless cycle, right? So you don't want to just be dependent. You don't want your happiness to be dependent on, I achieved this goal, because it's not going to work. What really happens is you'll achieve the goal, it'll work for a time, and then you're sort of on this treadmill. So you want to be able to enjoy your success, but also just be content with the progress that you're making. Be content that you are living your vision as you're in process. Are you giving back to the world? Are you helping other people? You always want to keep those things in mind, because when we just focus on ourselves and we get caught up in our ego, that's not satisfaction. It's a trick, really, that our minds will play on us, okay? So don't just rush off to your next goal. Once you achieve something, once you achieve your vision, spend some time enjoying your success, okay? And then the 7th step is to give back, is to share your success, share your story with other people. It completes the cycle. A part of the monomyth, or the hero and heroine's quest, is that once the hero or heroine achieves the goal, wins the boon, slays the dragon, gets the Holy Grail, they bring that back to their people. So this is not something new that I've invented or other people have invented. This is a part of how the story goes, that we're on this planet together. So when you achieve something, the idea is not to just hoard it. That's what the dragon does. He hoards the gold in the cave. The humans, the people, the heroes and the heroines, share it, okay? So once you achieve your goal, you'll get more pleasure, and you'll expand it by sharing it with other people. So those are the 7 steps to achieving your goal. And if you want to get more information on that and other tools and tips for success, you can always visit my website, which is visionquestretreats.com, and you can go to my blog from there on visionquestretreats.com, my blog, which is entitled The Vision Quest Chronicles, and if in the search you can look for tips. I have some free success tips and tools that you can find there that will have a lot of what we've talked about today. Now, in the few minutes we have remaining, I think we have at least a couple minutes left for a call. If there's anybody out there who wants to call in, maybe you have a question about success, achieving your goals, living your vision, following your bliss, any blocks you've experienced, or even success stories. I'm not the expert on this solely. Everybody has their own story. So if you want to call in and share how you've been successful or followed your bliss, you can pick up the phone. The number to call is 202-588-0893. And this is Inside Out. You're listening to Inside Out with Dr. Nicole Cutts on WPFW 89.3. And if you're just joining us, we have been talking today about following your bliss and living your vision of success. So what I'm going to leave you with now, since it seems like we don't have any more calls, and thank you for all the folks who did call in today and contributed to the discussion. I really appreciate it. I'm going to leave you with a little exercise. So hopefully you have a pen and paper ready, and just to jot down these questions that you can use for a reflection exercise, and maybe you can spend some time with this later. So the first question is, what things in your life make you feel the most happy, vibrant, and alive? Okay, and that can be anything healthy. What is it about this thing or activity that you love is the next thing. This is a tool from Appreciative Inquiry to get you to think about what it is that brings life to you and what makes you feel most happy, vibrant, and alive. Okay? The next thing to ask yourself is, are you currently doing the work that you love? Okay? If not, this is a several-pronged question. If not, why not? And if you are in a job or doing work that you don't love, take some time and think about what aspects of it you do love and you do enjoy. What are you achieving? What are you giving back to the world? What is your mission in that job? And that can be especially a helpful question if you either can't right now or are unwilling to make the leap into another job, is to find pleasure in the work that you're currently doing. Okay? The other thing is to think about, in just a few words, what is your vision of success? What does that look like for you? So you can jot these questions down for later answers. The next question, what are you good at? What are your unique talents? A lot of times that is your vision. That's what you should be doing, is what you're good at. Not only what makes you happy, but that you're uniquely suited to do. The next question is, are you willing to allow yourself to be guided by a purpose and a passion? So are you willing to be guided by this higher calling versus maybe what's just expected of you? Next question is, do you believe that your work can be fun and enjoyable? Because if you don't believe that, then it never will be. But if you believe that you can find joy in your work, then you're more likely to be able to find it. Okay? So it seems we have one more call. We're going to take that call now. Caller, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much.
So you had a question or comment?
Oh, just a comment. I was listening to the show earlier on my way home, and you touched on some points that really resonated with me in your explanation of the seven steps, and
great.
About giving back, and
yes,
that was something huge in my life that I practice constantly. It's something that's been drilled into my head from my parents about giving back and sharing with the universe, because we don't exist by ourselves. We coexist with everything and everyone in this space. And it was just really nice to hear somebody else speaking on those points and sharing that positive energy, because it makes a huge difference. And you were also speaking about depression and things like that, and not beating up on yourself. And those are also things that I've had to deal with in my life, as far as, setting goals and then trying to chase the next goal and so on and so forth. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. Awesome show. I was just clicking through the radio and found it. I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Well, I'm really glad you called, and I appreciate that. And, I'm glad you are out there giving back and sharing, who you are with the world. And you're doing that now by calling in, and sharing your story. And you reminded me of something that I want to close with, is that a part of the being on the hero's quest, the demons that we face, those dragons, sometimes it shows up in the form of depression, shows up in the form of self-doubt. And that's a part of the quest, is to fight those things in order to bring something to the world. So, I'm glad to know that you're out there on the hero's quest doing that. And thanks for the call. So we are about out of time. It is 2:54, so we have 1 minute to wrap up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to Inside Out. I'm your host, clinical psychologist and success coach, Dr. Nicole Cutts. I'm part of a collective with Lady Dane Figueroa Didi and Angela Peebles, and you've been listening to Inside Out on WPFW 89.3. I hope you go out there and slay some dragons, and we'll see you next week.